If you struggle with anxiety, trauma, or emotions that just go out of control, but you would like to be much more present, in control of your emotions and yourself, and live more fully, let me tell you that that was exactly my case. And in this video, you'll know the tool, the science behind it, how to implement it based on your personal needs and your situations. And then at the end of the video, we will do it together so you can learn by doing how it works, and then you can use it whenever you need to. About myself, my name is Carlos. I have a background of CPTSD, a complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I've been using this tool for more than a decade now, called Emotional Freedom Technique. And that's helped me to let go of all the triggers and emotions that would come all of a sudden, to be able to be myself, reconnected, grounded, authentic, because I was not being triggered or being carried away. And that's helped me to transform my life as well with the people that I'm working with. And I want to share with you how you can as well change those triggers and emotions. I reached this situation because for a long time I had lost hope, and I remember just going through the day looking forward to get back home. So I would try my best at work or if I had to study, but then I would feel exhausted, depleted. So I was just looking forward to get back home, rest, sleep, and try my best the next day. And then I remember thinking that maybe I have to be nicer to myself, more gentle. And I coped with my distress by training, going out, partying, drinking, playing computer games. And I did all that more than I should or was healthy. But what was missing there for me is that I was not aware that all those were symptoms, that I had some trauma to process and some wounds to heal that were preventing me to actually embrace healthier ways of reacting and experiencing myself. I still somehow I had some hope, and I would remember trying everything I could to feel better and manage my distress. So I tried relaxation techniques, meditation, mindfulness, yoga. That helped a lot to stretch and reconnect with my body. And actually those techniques helped me to feel better and more grounded. But when I was facing those challenging situations, I could still feel that trigger, and it felt useless, hopeless, that I could get better. So I would seek refuge in those activities that were bringing me calm and peace. And slowly I was giving up on the fact that maybe there were things that were not meant to be for me. I had a friend at that time that he noticed that I was trying everything I could, and I was talking about my anxiety and my challenges. And he shared that he had been to a psychologist and he was feeling way better. And actually I remember I saw him getting a job, feeling much more grounded, getting a girlfriend. Like, he was doing better in all areas of his life, and he had become a much more enjoyable person to be around. And he dragged me to visit the psychologist. And then I remember feeling at that time a mix of inspiration and jealous, because I also wanted to get those results, right? To get to be much more present. And so I did a session with the psychologist, working on my anxiety and my troubles, and it was fine. But then at the end, she used this technique, emotional freedom technique. In only 5 minutes afterwards, I felt a shift. For the first time in a very, very long time, if ever, I felt so present, so calm, so connected, like the noise in my head had been lifted, gone. And then is when I realized, okay, maybe I had more challenges and trauma to process than I thought. And on the other side, I felt the shift that actually there's hope. I can feel better. I'm experiencing it. Emotional freedom technique is a simple tool that consists on tapping in some specific points on the body. That's why sometimes it's just called as tapping. While we have focused awareness on what's the challenge, the issue, or the emotion that we want to work on. And this technique takes only a few minutes. We can do it anywhere, at home, at work, in a corridor, outdoors, whenever we need to. It doesn't require any medication, doesn't require any prescription. It's non-invasive and very effective. EFT is effective for many things, and that's why people turn to it, because the core is emotional relief. And that's why professionals such as psychologists, therapists, or coaches are implementing it into their practice, because it helps to shift what we are feeling very quickly. And when used consistently, it helps to work and process in the way we react, we feel, that we get triggered, even when those emotions that are coming from very distant past, including CPTSD and PTSD symptoms, which it was my case. So you can use EFT for a lot of situations, including managing stress, like before an event that you know might be challenging, so you can prepare yourself to face it during the situation or afterwards to calm yourself down. As well, for processing unresolved trauma and difficult memories, including CPTSD and PTSD, and the emotional impact that it left on you. And this includes as well working on nightmares, if that's the case. EFT is very effective as well for releasing emotions. This is when we feel automatically that an emotion is just coming up out of control. Could be anxiety, anger, sadness, fear, or as well physical sensations that are linked to an emotional background, like when we are feeling a knot in our throat, in our chest, or in our stomach. It works as well for belief clearing. These are situations that when you know that you are doing the right thing, but you're having an emotion of shame, guilt, fear, anxiety, or the other way around. When you know you are not doing the right thing, you're taking the wrong decision, and you cannot helping. And this includes situations like people pleasing or accepting compliments, money, gifts. Also, EFT is very effective to process and let go of negative or self-critical thinking. When you get automatically these negative emotions and feeling overwhelmed, and maybe you've already analyzed the situation, you know what's going on, yet it's very difficult to stop this negative spiral. So EFT can help you to have your brain on your side. And lastly, EFT is very effective in general to support your healing when there's an emotional background. So situations that maybe you know when you rationalize and think about it, you know that don't make sense, yet you've got this impulse, these cravings. So for example, if there's a phobia, food cravings, obesity, dependency, toxic relationships that you know it's not healthy, yet the emotions are pulling you towards that person or towards that situation, or as well with addictions, because in all those that I've just named, there's an emotional background that's driving that behavior. So as a summary, EFT is a tool to provide emotional relief, to be able to shift when you need to, how you are feeling. And this can be anxiety, fear, sadness, whatever emotion that you know where is it going, that you catch yourself, okay, I'm getting triggered, I know where is it going and it's not healthy, and you want to interrupt that way and be able to regain your control and feel more present. And as well for more deeper or traumatic situations or deeper feelings such as grief, deep pain, fear, and any other traumatic or difficult memories that you might be experiencing, that after honoring whatever was the event and accepting it, it's time to let go of this emotional footprint in your system. I must admit at the beginning that after using EFT, and I felt much more calm, much more present, grounded and connected, and it felt like, at least for that moment, anxiety had been gone. I remember feeling quite skeptical. I was wondering how comes that if this is so effective, no one told me that before. Or maybe that was just a placebo effect, like psychologically, I was influencing myself not to feel that, and it was just a trick. I was encouraged to use it daily to be able to shift and reprogram how I was being triggered and reacting. Despite that, I took a long time until I implemented into my routine. And now actually I regret it, because it's been more than 10 years since I first used it. And now I see how it's been the shift in me and how it's my own experience. So that only shows how unaware I was myself back then and ignorant, because I thought that maybe with one session that was it, I was feeling good instantly. But in my case, because of CPTSD, my way of being triggered, my way of reacting had been permanently established. So I needed to do it for a longer term to be able to shift my way of reacting and experiencing myself. So not implementing EFT earlier into my routine only delayed re-regulating my system and feeling much more balanced throughout my day and be able to face those challenges with confidence that I was enough. So at the beginning, when I started using EFT, I was only using it every now and then when I felt triggered. But eventually, I realized that when I was facing those challenges, I was not feeling as triggered, yet I could understand what was going on. I could make sense of what the other person was doing, of my own emotions, feeling much more balanced. So I could feel the anxiety, the fear, so it was there, yet I was not taken, or I was not feeling carried away by the emotion. And that's the moment I realized maybe this EFT thing is helping me to reprogram and shift how am I feeling, how my body is reacting. That made me very curious when I had the certainty that EFT is working on what's the background of this EFT technique, where is it coming from? And despite EFT is relatively modern, actually its roots come back from ancient Chinese traditional medicine more than 5,000 years. At the time, they discovered that the body has some energy channels they called meridians, where the internal energy called qi is flowing. And they understood that disruptions in our internal energy challenge is what caused these unhealthy reactions, these unhealthy behaviors and feelings. So back then, they understood that by stimulating different points in the body helped to restore the healthy flow of energy and restore health. And that's why they developed acupuncture, to stimulate precisely those points in the body. And that's exactly what we are doing with EFT, stimulating with our fingers those points. And that's very interesting that nowadays still you can see in China, maybe when people are walking or in parks, that they are still stimulating the bodies, maybe doing things like this, or pressuring in the chest, because they know they are self-regulating and working on their well-being and emotions. It was in the 70s when the American psychologist Roger Callahan had a patient with a very deep phobia, and he asked her to tap underneath her eye, because this is a point related to the stomach meridian for processing phobias. And within minutes, she felt really relieved, and eventually she lost her phobia. She was healed. And then he continued using this technique, stimulating different points of the body with different patients, and their symptoms drastically improved. So this blend of Eastern and Western medicine was working. And it was a bit later in the 90s when Gary Craig, interestingly enough, he was an engineer. He developed and refined this technique and shaped what today is known as emotional freedom technique. And he believed that in addition to stimulating different points on the body, we need to focus on what's the emotion that we want to heal. And since then, EFT has spread worldwide and has helped lots of people, myself included. And that's why it's being used nowadays by psychologists, therapists, teachers, even in all areas in society, people that want to improve how they feel and how they react, and improve, of course, the quality of life. Recently, scientists have discovered in our bodies physical ligaments that actually run very closely along the lines and points described in traditional Chinese medicine. And to be able to confirm where they are going, what they did is injecting tracer dyes, and then they could see how these ligaments carrying this tracer dye, so they could observe where they're running along. And as well, what they did is stimulating those points, and then with ultrasounds, they could see where the signals in our body are going, and they discovered that the lines described in traditional Chinese medicine are 80% accurate to what physically is happening in our bodies. And this newly discovered system has been called the Primo Vascular system. And this is believed now that these impulses, these electrical signals, are being transmitted in the body with collagen. And at this stage, 99% of the studies conducted on EFT from different organizations show a positive impact on using EFT on the emotional and mental well-being of patients. And as well, when measuring psychological markers, EFT is typically used in a clinical setting together with cognitive and exposure therapy to process and work on stress. Also, it has been shown that EFT is as effective as EMDR, but EFT achieves the same results in half the time. It is believed that it's because with EFT we are stimulating different points in our body that are sending signals straight to our brain to rewire and process the emotions at our core, where we are feeling them. And also in different studies, when measuring with brain scans, how the brain of different patients that had been using EFT after a 4 or 6 week program, after this period, these people had the brain functioning in the same way as a completely healthy person. So this is showing how effective it is EFT on all levels to rewire our own experience and be able to promote health in our mind and body. So I must admit that it was at this moment, after reviewing lots of scientific literature, that I was convinced that EFT actually works. And all the publication and research that is coming up, they all keep showing positive results. So it was then when I started to implement EFT into my daily routine, when I wanted to work into stress, my anxiety and different feelings. I was convinced that it was not a placebo effect. And then I wanted to know more about psychological well-being and trauma. And it's when I completed a psychotrauma master to be able to learn more about our well-being and dive deep into EFT and how can it promote well-being. After that, I started looking around online and social media, and there's lots of good resources on EFT. and also testimonials that I found of people using EFT that were very encouraging. And they were just sharing the same that I had experienced, that EFT actually had helped to process and get free of those emotions. All that was very encouraging. And at the same time, I got caught by family members and friends doing EFT, which looks something like this. And they thought I was really weird. They asked me, what am I doing? And when I tried to explain how EFT was helping me to self-regulate and process my emotions and feel much more present, they didn't understand at all. And instead, they were dismissing my experiences and how I was feeling and telling me things like I should just shake it off or not think about it and move on. And I wish it was that easy, that you can just turn your face around and continue doing your life, right? So I continue focusing on EFT and implementing that. So there were different phases, for example, that I was working on one emotion, then in another phase on different one, or I noticed I was getting triggered, and I implemented into my own routine of self-awareness, and then the changes were drastic. So EFT became one of the core pieces that helped me in my recovery and helped me to transform my life, just like lots of people have done, and how I want you to feel after watching this video and getting to know how to use this tool. The way EFT works is just like acupuncture, stimulating these specific points in the body, but instead of using needles, we're using our own fingers. And that's why instead of calling those points acupuncture points, because puncture, that comes from Latin, it means piercing, we're just using our own fingers to tap and stimulate those points. And that's why we call them acupoints. Personally, I believe that this is great to know that EFT is based in ancient knowledge and it works and promotes well-being. But this is as well great to know that Western science has validated how by stimulating those points we can calm the amygdala in our brain. The amygdala plays a central role in processing our emotions and as well linking a memory that we might have to the attached emotions. The amygdala is the part of the brain that determines if a situation is safe or dangerous, and is the one responsible for setting our system into fight or flight mode or survival. People that have generalized or persistent anxiety, phobias, PTSD or trauma, they might find situations that are actually safe as threatening because they have an overactive amygdala that might be triggered automatically. This happens because our brain works in a reactive way. That means that it stacks all of our memories and with the linked emotion to each memory. So then our memory and our brain looks back to all those events and understands, okay, all these similar events that we already experienced relate to this emotion. So it functions in a predictive way based on previous experiences. And that's why people that have suffered trauma, anxiety, or really strong emotions, the amygdala becomes overactive because the previous events that act as the reference to predict how to react to future emotions are not as positive. And the strongest emotions are the ones that are going to dictate how are we going to react. And research shows that by using EFT, it sends calming signals to the amygdala to be able to calm it down and feel much more grounded and reduce our stress and be able to feel in control of our own emotions. Lots of scientific research are supporting this, like the one led by Dr. Peta Stapleton or Harvard University, that in a more than 10-year-long study, they validated the positive effects of EFT in calming the amygdala. They validated not only with the testimony of the test subjects in those studies, but also with brain scans. They validated the images, how the brains and the amygdala were functioning before and after using EFT, and they validated that it's helping to calm down the amygdala and be able to shift from survival back to a much more present and regulated state. EFT reduces as well stress and anxiety. It's been found that people that used EFT for just 1 hour or less were able to reduce cortisol levels, which cortisol is the stress hormone. They were able to reduce it by 43%, which is much more than it's been ever measured with talk therapy or rest. Lower cortisol levels is equivalent to reducing the perceived stress and anxiety and feeling much more calm. EFT helps to balance the autonomic nervous system, which is the one that controls the stress and relaxation responses. EFT, with its combination of touch and focused emotional awareness and self-acceptance, is telling the vagus nerve that it's safe to relax, and it helps reduce the perceived threat. The vagus nerve is part of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system responsible for your digestion, your rest, and the one that helps you relax. The gentle tapping of EFT engages your parasympathetic nervous system, which then it's understanding that it's safe to relax, which improves your mood, it lowers the stress levels, It even boosts your immune system and reduces even your heart rate, which helps you further to feel much more present and in control instead of agitated. And beyond any subjective emotional relief or testimonial, research shows that EFT downregulates the genes involved with inflammation and stress responses. EFT effectively helps with the neuroplasticity and rewiring the brain. EFT supports long-term emotional and physical health. The neural pathways associated with negative feelings or negative emotions can be altered, and this is reducing the risk of defaulting back to default behaviors or the old way of reacting and feeling. EFT can help you to rewire your brain with a healthier way of functioning, a healthier way of feeling and reacting. And when paired with emotional awareness in your daily actions, this can help to settle in the change. And now, while you are watching the video, if you would like to know how to implement this and other techniques to work on your persistent anxiety, trauma, or emotional well-being, check the link in the description to receive more information about the I Got Through program that I created. You will receive a personalized plan, the necessary information, and I will help you implement the techniques based on your case so you can be able to break free from this way of reacting and feeling. Now we've already covered EFT, its background, and the science behind it. Let's get now on how to start implementing it. First, you identify the problem, the issue you want to focus on. This could be an emotion such as anger, sadness, anxiety, fear, phobia, or a physical sensation like you might get automatically when facing a situation or some context, a knot in your throat, in your chest, in your stomach. This includes, of course, negative beliefs, negative feelings, grief, trauma or difficult emotions, belief around money or what you deserve or you don't, or not feeling enough or worthy of receiving, how you react in given situations, or maybe as well around properties. Maybe it's about relationships, intimacy, grief, any emotion or situation that you want to address. Second, you rate the intensity of the feeling that you are having from 0 to 10. These are called subjective units of distress. And 0 means completely relaxed, like not feeling nothing at all. And 10 is the maximum possible distress level you might have, like painful. This is providing a reference point to understand how are you feeling before and after the process. If you are feeling anxiety in this specific moment, for example, and you want to start right now, you can close your eyes and focus, okay, now my distress level is 7, for example. Or if you are working with a way of reacting from before that you know that from previous occasions when you are exposed to a situation, how are you feeling? And then you can rate yourself in reference to previous events. So rate yourself from 0 to 10. Third is the setup statement. This is the statement that expresses what's the problem, the emotion, and the issue that you want to work on. And I think it's very important to be honest to what are your feelings. And actually, here is one of the key parts of implementing EFT, of getting right what's the problem and the linked emotions. Just like when we are cleaning the house, that we have to acknowledge and recognize what it is that we want to clean and tidy up. Same with our emotions. We need to be clear and specific on what it is that we want to work on. So we have to acknowledge if this is pain, sadness, grief, anger, anxiety. The statement formula is, even though I have, and here you mention your problem, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So for example, even though I have this anxiety, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And the more specific and clear you can be about your problem, including details, why, who, and of course how you feel, the most effective it's going to be. Then when you have your statement clear, you repeat it 3 times while tapping on the side of your hand. This is going to help you focus and get into the feeling. This point is called the karate chop point. After repeating the statement 3 times, then we go to the tapping sequence, which is stimulating different acupoints in our body. During this phase, we don't use the full statement, but a reminder phrase, which includes the core of your statement or the part you want to focus on. In this reminder phrase, you focus on this emotion while saying this anxiety, this anger, this fear. So you focus on the emotion while stimulating the different points on the body that we will see afterwards together. Then you repeat the full sequence on your body, and then in the second round, here's the key. Instead of repeating what's the problem, you're going to state what's your desired way of feeling. How do you want to feel afterwards after you've solved the problem? Experience also shows that if we do this EFT tapping while looking straight into our eyes, into the mirror, the healing is way faster. This is believed because instead of maybe our mind going to different places, we are focusing on ourselves, what we are feeling, our own sensations, and be able to connect with our feelings, which is after doing the EFT was it's going to help free and release those emotions. After you've completed the tapping sequence, breathe deeply, because this is going to help you to settle the process and release these emotions and symptoms. And then you re-evaluate how you're feeling. Just like you did at the beginning, from 0 to 10, give yourself a moment to connect with yourself. How are you feeling at the moment? And rate your feelings from 0 to 10. And this is going to provide you the reference to understand whether healing is happening. And then if the intensity has reduced, you can repeat another round of the setup statement and help you further process your emotions and your situation. And as well, depending on how you feel, maybe you understand there's some anger in the memory on the situation in the background, or sadness, grief, any other emotion. And feel free to adapt and evolve your setup statement to match whatever you are feeling and that it is that you want to release. Okay, now let's do an EFT together. I will use a very simple and general statement, and I will be guiding you on what are the next steps. So then you can internalize how EFT works and what are the different points that you have to stimulate, so then you can apply for your own case. If you're doing any activity such as driving, operating a machine, or any other activity that requires your attention and your hands, don't do EFT. We have to be safe. You can pause the video, and then afterwards, when you have the time and opportunity, you can just follow what I'm doing now. After the video, you can adapt the statement for your own case and the emotion that you want to work on. Now I will focus on anxiety for this example to learn how to do EFT. Now comes rating. How are you feeling at this moment? Anything from 5 and below means that it's bothersome but manageable. Anything from 8 and up, that means that it's really painful and difficult to withstand. So rate now your distress levels from 0 to 10. This is going to help you assess how effective is this round. Now we're going to focus on processing anxiety. And so the setup statement is going to be, even though I feel this anxiety, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Now let's start tapping in the side of a hand and repeat after me. Even though I have this anxiety, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I have this anxiety, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though I have this anxiety, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Breathe deeply. Okay. Now we start tapping in our scalp, in the top of our head, at least 7 times. And just like before, repeat after me while tapping. This anxiety. Now on the top of our eyebrows, say this anxiety. Below our eyes, this anxiety I have. Below our nose, this anxiety. Below our lips and the chin, this anxiety. Here, we say this anxiety. Here we tap on the soft tissue underneath the bone. It doesn't have to be perfect. Here in our ribs, below our breast, this anxiety. On the side, this is at the height of where the bra goes, as a reference for women, or at the similar height as our nipples. Say, this anxiety. Then we softly in our heart, this anxiety I have. Yeah, just like that, continue repeating after me. Now, in the top of our thumb, this anxiety. Top of the finger, this anxiety I have. Next finger, this anxiety. Try to breathe deeply. And next finger, from down up, this anxiety. Next, from up down, this anxiety. Yeah, just like that. Breathe deeply, and then we go back to the origin, to the karate chop point, and we repeat our statement. Even though this anxiety I have, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though this anxiety I have, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though this anxiety I have, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Breathe deeply. And now we go to the second round where we want to acknowledge how we want to feel by releasing this anxiety. If you prefer, you can repeat on the whole body like we just did, or in the side of the hand, and repeat, because I'm enough, because I can take the right choices, because I am valuable, because I can take care of myself, because I know what's best for me and I know I can do it. Because I deserve to be loved. Even though I don't know how, I know I can. I know I can feel great, happy, present. Here, you can keep repeating whatever comes to your head, to your mind, that is going to inspire you and support you and focus. And for example, if you are working on being present, more happy, more mindful, you can say things like, because I know I can be mindful, because I know how to react properly, because I know how happiness feels like, because I can take care of myself, because I'm enough, because I have what I need. These are just examples to inspire you to say what's going to help you do you the most. When you are done, we stop, we breathe deeply. If you need to, you can give yourself a moment, a minute, and pause the video here. Sometimes we need some time to come back, right? When you are done, breathe deeply and reevaluate. How are you feeling at this moment? From 0 to 10. Hopefully, it's going to be a value lower than the first time we did this evaluation of the intensity of the feelings. And now please let me know. I would like to know if this was the first time that you did an EFT, how it was for you, if you felt any shift or more calm afterwards. And if you would like to know any other specific statements for your situation, let me know that in the comments down below. Now you know how to do an EFT, and what's missing for you is only to adapt the setup statement, the sentence, to your own needs. So for example, if you've got strong emotions, you can say, this anger I feel, this automatic reaction I have, this triggering situation, or how this person always triggers me when talks about that. The more specific you can be describing the emotion or the situation you want to work on, the better. And while you are doing EFT tapping, if different emotions come to mind while you are doing a specific setup statement, let's say that you are working on sadness, and while you're saying, even though this sadness I feel, and then you get images from your childhood, for example, you can expand, even though this sadness I feel, because as a child I didn't get what I needed, I couldn't trust my parents, I was confused, this sadness I feel. Even though this sadness I feel, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. So what's important here is that you acknowledge what happened, where is it coming from, and the statement with self-acceptance. And this can be as well applied to situations, could be like talking to an audience, grief, losing someone, or any other situations that's triggering you and arousing this emotional reaction. And in the same way, while you are tapping in the different parts of the body, if a different emotion or you want to expand, like this anger I feel because I don't feel respected, this lack of respect, or because I feel lonely. And in the same way, while you are tapping in the acupoints in your body, and let's say that you are working in this case with anger, And you say, okay, this anger I feel because this person is very triggering. This anger I feel all of a sudden because I feel disrespected, because I feel I am not being listened. So you can expand and add nuances about the statement and the situation you want to work on. But you have to stay on topic and focus on working one emotion on each round. And if you feel that new nuances, new emotions, or you discover more depth to those feelings, then you can work afterwards and do another round with a new statement to process and work on that emotional reaction or issue. If you are out of home, maybe at work, on the way, on a public space, you can do a shortened version of EFT and still it's going to be effective just by tapping on the side of your hand in the karate chop point with the emotional and focused awareness on what it is that you want to work on. Then another important tip is that the full potential of EFT comes when we bring full awareness on the emotions. And that we can do when we are visualizing what it is that we want to release. If in your situation, when you're just thinking about the situation or visualizing that event or the emotion, triggers on you automatically a reaction that goes out of control, then don't do that. We want to work within manageable levels of distress. And in these situations, you just acknowledge that you have maybe this anxiety, fear, anger, sadness, grief, or any other emotion. You acknowledge that and do the EFT protocol, the full, and it's going to help your system be able to release those emotions and break free from those patterns. When doing EFT, you don't have to do perfect. It's not about doing it in the specific right point on the body or try to find a specific spot. Wherever you do it, as long as it's close enough within this range, it's going to be effective. And same with the setup statement. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be meaningful to you, your situation. It has to resonate with your case. And in the same way, you don't need a fancy yoga mat or any specific place to do it. Somewhere where you can feel calm enough that you can connect with yourself and your emotions to do the EFT. Then just breathe deeply. And if for some reason you are somewhere with lots of noise outside, you can use maybe some calm, quiet music to create a nicer, more relaxing atmosphere so you can connect with yourself and process the emotions with EFT. Now, when doing EFT or using any other tool for emotional well-being, it involves a part of rewiring our brain, and this is not an overnight process, rewiring our brain. It takes time. So that's why we can use EFT when we need emotional relief in a specific situation and we want to feel much more calm, or when we know that we are working with persistent anxiety or normalized ways of reacting and feeling ourselves. In those cases, then we need to use EFT daily so we can rewire and implement a new way of reacting by letting go this older way of feeling ourselves. Now, rewiring is very personal and it depends on each one's situation and context. But here are some references so you know how long can it take depending on your situation, and then as well you can assess how deep it was this wound that you are working on. If you are trying to implement or change a habit, something that's relatively mild, it can take 3 to 4 weeks max, so it becomes a normalized part of yourself. If it's a moderate emotional shift, such as anger, sadness, emotional outbursts, then you can expect 6 to 8 weeks of doing daily EFT to shift that way of reacting and feeling yourself. If it's deep emotional rewiring, such as trauma, very difficult memories that you've been carrying for a long time, then you can expect 2 to 6 months of doing daily EFT to be able to let go of this way of reacting and feeling yourself. And if it's a full behavioral and identity shift that you want to transform yourself, then expect minimum 6 months of sustained practice. And if that's your case, I would encourage as well to include not only EFT but other tools and techniques to bring awareness on where are those ways of feeling and reacting coming from. So then you can go to the root to be able to clear and heal those originary wounds. And that's going to make your healing and growth process way faster and much more effective. These timelines are only for general reference and it's very personal how long this is going to take. Yet what we can do to make EFT and any other practice much more effective and be able to heal faster, do not change the core of the setup statement. If you are working on anger or fear, then keep practicing EFT daily, focusing on this fear. So don't start working with 3 different EFTs until you've solved one. Then a clear and specific setup statement. I know it's very tempting, and it happened to me as well, that you want to include lots of details and make it long to be able to describe perfectly what's your situation. Yet, clarity beats complexity. So what you want is, if it's fear that you're working on, this fear, and maybe add some details that are relevant, but less is more. And what's important is to do this practice daily, and it should describe in a very honest way what are your feelings. And what you can find sometimes is that when working on an emotion, then you discover other linked or attached situations or emotions. Then you're still working on the same core issue, but you might evolve the setup statement to represent with clarity what you are working on. You might experience some resistance to self-acceptance. A core part of EFT is self-acceptance, acknowledging what happened and what we are feeling, connecting with our sensations, and instead of them being a problem, being able to feel everything, but without losing control or without those emotions being repressed or overtaking us. When we are starting to use EFT or any other technique, that we feel a rejection for that, because we are trying to connect with something that was repressed or not acknowledged. So if that's your case, that you feel at the beginning that it's not working, that's completely normal, and it might take sometimes 2, 3, maybe some more days until you connect with yourself, your emotions, and you feel this relief. And lastly, consistency. EFT works best when we use it daily. If it's only anxiety in a specific time of the day that we want to work on, perfectly. If we are working on a specific issue that it's normalized, like persistent anxiety or trauma, then it's best to do it daily. The best time of the day is first day in the morning and last day in the day, because that's when our brains are the most relaxed and the most open to receive and process new information. Just 5 minutes a day can build lots of emotional resilience and really transform your life. One last note, if that's your case, that you've got CPTSD or complex trauma, like it's my case, EFT is extremely effective to process those emotions and this way of feeling. Yet, in those situations, might be very difficult to track what's the origin of this emotion. And that's why I would suggest to work together with other tools and implement other awareness techniques to understand how are you feeling, your body sensations. So that includes some somatic practices and self-reflection to be able to track down and put the pieces together, because complex trauma, what it does is scatter the mind to be able to survive the challenges we had. And then with EFT and other therapeutic tools, what we are doing is gather all these parts and make sense of everything that we are feeling. I used EFT for years, first thing in the morning, to be able to prepare myself for the day, and that helped massively. And as well, last thing in the day, to be able to calm down and have way better and deeper sleep. And in the same manner, whenever you want to process an emotion and you catch yourself like overly angry, sad, and you want to calm down, back in control and feel yourself, you can just do it any time of the day, 5 minutes. And it's going to do wonders. If this is your case, that you want to work on your trauma or CPTSD, on your persistent anxiety or normalized emotional overwhelm, check the link in the description to receive more information about the I Got Through program that I created, where I will provide you a personalized plan based on your context or your situation with all the steps, and I will be following up, making sure that you are healing. And there I share all the relevant information and tools that helped me, and as well as the latest research that's going to help you as well to break free from this way of reacting and be yourself. EFT is a surprisingly effective tool to process emotions, but this is not a replacement for therapy. EFT works best when it's paired with some sort of therapy or guidance to be able to target what's the core wound there, and then is when EFT is massively transformational. Yet, if you are feeling emotional overwhelmed, stress, anxiety, and you just want to regulate yourself at that moment, do it with EFT. You're really going to feel the shift. And also, because of EFT helped me to get rid of this anxiety and those fears that I had, it helped me to boost massively my confidence and trust in myself, because I was able to open myself to new experiences. And instead of self-sabotaging myself with my emotional overwhelm, I was able to face those challenges and then reach my personal and professional goals and feel much more present and much more fulfilled. And that not only made better my relationship with myself, because I would feel much more comfortable and confident, but also with other people. So this is why I can only share and encourage you to implement EFT into your daily practice, into your routine, as a tool to be able to shift your feelings and work on the emotions that no longer serve you. I hope you found this video useful, and if you would like to work with me on your personal situation or get more information about the I Got Through program, remember you have the link down in the description. See you soon.